Lessons from the Marshall Plan. The Marshall Plan, officially known as the European Recovery Program, ERP, was an American initiative enacted in 1948 to aid Western Europe in economic recovery after World War II, named after then Secretary of State George C. Marshall. The plan aimed to rebuild war-torn regions, remove trade barriers, modernize industry, and improve European prosperity. Here are some key points about the Marshall Plan. Origins. The plan was proposed by George C. Marshall in a speech at Harvard University on June 5, 1947. The idea was to provide substantial financial aid to help rebuild European economies. Implementation. The U.S. Congress passed the Economic Cooperation Act in March 1948, officially launching the Marshall Plan. It provided over $12 billion, equivalent to approximately $130 billion today, in economic assistance to Western European countries over 4 years. Goals. The primary goals were to reconstruct cities, industries, and infrastructure heavily damaged during the war, remove trade barriers to foster economic cooperation and integration, and curb the spread of Soviet communism by stabilizing European economies. Beneficiaries: 16 Western European nations, including the United Kingdom, France, West Germany, Italy, and the Netherlands received aid. The Soviet Union and its Eastern Bloc allies were offered assistance but declined, viewing the plan as an attempt to interfere in their affairs. Economic impact. The plan significantly boosted economic growth in recipient countries. Industrial and agricultural production rapidly increased, living standards improved, and the groundwork was laid for future European economic cooperation, leading to the formation of organizations like the Organization for European Economic Cooperation, OEC, and eventually the European Union, EU. Political impact. The plan also helped strengthen political stability in Western Europe and was a key factor in the U.S. strategy of containing Soviet influence during the early stages of the Cold War. The Marshall Plan is widely regarded as one of the most successful foreign aid programs in history, not only for its immediate economic impact, but also for fostering long-term transatlantic cooperation and stability. How can America use the concept of the Marshall Plan to fight crime, poverty, homelessness, and shame at home? The concept of the Marshall Plan, which focused on large-scale financial aid, strategic investment, and economic development to rebuild post-war Europe, can be adapted to address major social challenges in America, such as crime, poverty, homelessness, and the associated shame. Here's how America could apply the principles of the Marshall Plan domestically. 1. Massive investment in economically distressed areas. Economic stimulus. Just as the Marshall Plan focused on rebuilding war-ravaged infrastructure, the U.S. could invest heavily in regions facing high poverty and crime rates. This could involve building modern infrastructure, expanding public transportation, and revitalizing schools, healthcare facilities, and affordable housing. The goal would be to create sustainable economic opportunities, public-private partnerships. By encouraging collaboration between government and businesses, America could stimulate job creation in areas most affected by poverty and homelessness. Tax incentives for businesses that hire local residents or operate in disadvantaged areas could help reduce unemployment and economic inequality. 2. Education and skills development. Modernizing education. Investing in education is crucial for breaking the cycle of poverty and crime. By modernizing schools, providing free vocational training, and improving access to higher education, the government could empower individuals with the skills needed to succeed in today's economy. Community centers. Establishing local community centers focused on education, job training, and support services would help people in underserved areas gain skills and access opportunities for upward mobility. 3. Comprehensive social services. Housing First Initiative. Addressing homelessness directly through a housing-first approach could mirror the way the Marshall Plan provided basic necessities to rebuild Europe. Permanent housing must be the foundation, with wraparound services like job training, mental health care, addiction treatment, and child care to ensure long-term stability for individuals. Universal Basic Income, UBI, like the financial aid provided to European nations to stabilize their economies. A domestic UBI program could give struggling Americans a basic income floor, providing immediate relief and reducing financial stress, which is often a contributing factor to crime. 4. criminal justice reform and community policing, restorative justice programs, reforming the justice system to focus more on rehabilitation and less on punishment would help reintegrate people back into society, reducing recidivism. This mirrors the Marshall Plan's focus on long-term solutions rather than short-term fixes. Community investment in policing, creating a community policing model where local residents and police work together to solve problems could reduce crime and improve trust between law enforcement and communities. This strategy would be akin to how the Marshall Plan fostered cooperation between nations for shared prosperity. 5. Mental health and addiction services. Expanding access to mental health care. Like the Marshall Plan's focus on rebuilding infrastructure, the U.S. could expand access to mental health services and addiction treatment programs. These services would focus on long-term recovery and preventing homelessness and crime, targeting root causes rather than symptoms, integrated health solutions, providing comprehensive health care that includes mental, physical, and substance abuse care, would support individuals in becoming self-sufficient and reducing the shame associated with their struggles. 6. Reducing systemic inequality, tax reform, and wealth redistribution to ensure that economic recovery reaches all citizens. Tax reforms could ensure that wealth is more evenly distributed. This would reflect the Marshall Plan's goal of rebuilding all sectors of society, not just the wealthy or powerful. Addressing racial and social inequities. Policies aimed at tackling systemic racial discrimination in housing, education, and employment would help reduce the concentration of poverty and crime in certain communities, similar to how the Marshall Plan focused on inclusive rebuilding across Europe. 7. Fostering community and dignity, public messaging, and social cohesion. The Marshall Plan wasn't just about rebuilding economies, but also fostering a sense of collective security and mutual cooperation. In a similar way, the U.S. could promote a narrative that celebrates individual dignity and collective responsibility, public awareness campaigns that reduce stigma around homelessness, poverty, and addiction can help people feel less shame, thus encouraging community-wide support and action, civic engagement and empowerment. By investing in programs that encourage local leadership and citizen engagement, the government could empower individuals to be part of the solution in fighting poverty and crime in their own neighborhoods. 8. Long-term vision for sustainable solutions, green economy and jobs. Just as the Marshall Plan laid the groundwork for modern European industry, America could invest in the green economy, solar energy, wind power, and sustainable agriculture, providing both jobs and long-term economic sustainability for disadvantaged communities, local economic ecosystems, encouraging local entrepreneurship, and supporting small businesses in poor neighborhoods would help create self-sustaining economies, reducing dependence on external aid. By taking a holistic, long-term approach similar to the Marshall Plan, America can tackle the systemic issues that drive crime, poverty, and homelessness. Investments in education, housing, healthcare, and job creation, along with a focus on dignity and empowerment, could lead to lasting improvements in the quality of life for millions